Oh shit, here we go again.
GTA is not only one of the most profitable franchises, but also one of the most popular. With that being said, GTA's popularity has also brought controversy, which has been around for a long time, if not as long as the property itself. The criticism has had its fair share with each game. GTA 3 was criticized for being too violent for 2001 standards, and GTA San Andreas was criticized for, well, cut content to say the least. In today's video, I'm going over what could be the potential controversy of this game and overall, why you shouldn't freak out about the game prior to launch. One of the biggest excuses that I've seen is GTA being too inappropriate or too mature for kids. Now, if you actually pay attention to game labels or targeted demographics, you'll realize that the game isn't being made for kids. To explain this further, prior to a game releasing, video games have to be rated. So if you live in the US, Canada, and Mexico, citizens of these countries will recognize it as the ESRB. If you live in a European country, you'll recognize it as PEGI. With that being said, the ESRB and PEGI rate the game based on its content, which means that the game isn't advertised for kids. Even the first trailer advises so, which also means that any parent or angry politician that says it's too inappropriate for kids or kids shouldn't be playing this, that's the fault of the parents, not the company. Probably the biggest excuse to be used time and time again is that video games cause violence, and games like GTA are used within said statement to prove their point. While studies have shown that playing certain types of video games cause temporary aggression, it isn't necessarily a big enough impact to affect the criminal rate within countries. At most, there have been very few cases where someone blamed GTA as the reason someone committed the crime. Some of those cases and lawsuits come from John Thompson. For those who don't know who John Thompson is, John was a big advocate for believing in the idea that GTA as a franchise caused real-world violence and crimes from teens and young adults. Some of his cases blamed the franchise for school shootings, murders, theft, and so on. Some of the cases involved lawsuits against retailers like Walmart. However, unlike the GTA franchise, John Thompson was never successful with the accusations. While there are also statements that go along with the claim, like how games desensitize gamers from real-world violence. It is fairly obvious that gaming doesn't cause violence. If it did, we'd have about 20 million criminals, if not more. I say this because of the amount of game copies that GTA 5 has sold, alongside the thousands of games that are violent like Call of Duty. With that being said, when GTA 6 does release, it's not going to convince gamers to go robbing places or killing civilians because we have a good distinction between fantasy versus reality. One complaint that was brought up with GTA 5 that may carry over into GTA 6 is the game's viewpoint against women. More specifically, quote, "The game seems to limit their roles to primarily stereotypical and hypersexualized occupations, such as strippers, hookers, and prostitutes. When looking at past GTA games, those occupations have always been there, and it's always been part of the game." Because of this complaint and others related to it, it's led to believe that GTA has a bit of misogyny, and the trailer shots of the strip club and lady twerking have already been used to fight this argument. However, people do need to realize that GTA is meant to be a satirical and exaggerated version of America. With that comes the jokes and representation of groups of people and the area's cultural behavior during the time period that the game takes place. I do think that because Lucia will be a playable character, the issue of misogyny and sexualization against women may not be as prevalent within GTA 6, and who knows, it may encourage a group of female gamers to actually play the game because of a lead female protagonist. The last issue is mainly targeted towards PC gamers, and they probably already know what I'm talking about. Essentially, Rockstar has never released the PC version of any of their games alongside the console counterpart. The gaming community has never understood this, especially considering how the other companies have never had this issue in the past. So, why do they delay the PC version? Well, the answer as to why can easily be explained by Mike York, who used to work at Rockstar. So, let's take a listen.
Rockstar Games develops, when they release a port for GTA 5, why does it take 2 years afterwards to come out or however long, right? Now, One of the main reasons why a PC port will take so long to come out after a console release is because the developers want to make it as best as possible, and they have to work out all these little bugs that they haven't been kind of working on and putting to the side and they haven't seen yet, right? Because one of the main things I want to touch on is that the reason why a PC port comes later and not like the first thing that comes out is because they want to prioritize what sells, right? Most of the time, especially in the past, PlayStation was like the big seller, right? PlayStation was like the console to have. It sold more copies than any other console for the most part. Everybody's playing PlayStation. So what the developer would do is they would focus all their energy on making sure the PlayStation port and the PlayStation game worked really good, right? And then they would like kind of port it to the Xbox. Like usually they would do it at the same time. Okay, so like when I was working over on Grand Theft Auto 5, for instance, we were concentrating on the PS5 or PS3 and the Xbox at the time, right? But we were mainly pushing the PS3 to the limits because the PS3 was like kind of better hardware at the time to use memory and different things. And so we put all our energy into that and optimizing it the best we can for that console, right? Then we kind of port that version to the Xbox kind of simultaneously. We're working on like both versions, right? And testing them. And the PC version is kind of like the version that's in the background that is running the two versions, right? And building them. And there's always a PC version of the game, but it's not quite like polished. It's just kind of feeding the other games and making them work, right? I don't know if that makes sense, but that's how I visualize it.
So essentially, most people who play GTA play on consoles, and more specifically, PlayStation. With that being said, Rockstar is going to spend most of their time making sure that their more popular version of their games work the best. Which this is kind of a good thing, considering that while it might take a while for the PC port, you can always feel confident that it will be optimized for when it is ready to launch. However, we are now at the end of today's video. If you enjoyed it, then please be sure to leave a like down below. Also, if you're new to the channel and you don't want to miss out on any of my content, then be sure to subscribe down below. If you guys have any ideas as to what you want to see on the channel, then be sure to leave a comment down below as well. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.